The signal came from nowhere. Deep in the heart of the Galactic Concord's central command station, a young scientist named stared at his screen. His crystalline body glowed soft blue as confusion spread through his mind. The signal was weak. It was old. It used a frequency pattern that no known species in the galaxy had ever used. Checked his instruments 3 times. The signal was real. Someone was out there, calling for help from a region of space that every map labeled as empty. He reported his finding to the High Council. The 12 elders of the Concord, representatives of the most powerful species in the galaxy, listened with mild interest. Then they dismissed him. "Sector Null contains nothing," said Counselor the eldest. His crystal form pulsed with ancient light. "We surveyed that region 40,000 cycles ago. There is no intelligent life there. Your signal is cosmic noise, young one, nothing more." Wanted to argue, the signal had structure. It had pattern, it was artificial. But he was young and the council was old and their word was law. He bowed his head and left the chamber. But he did not stop listening. 300 years before this moment, on a small blue planet called Earth, the sky had turned to fire. The asteroid came without warning. It was massive, almost the size of a small moon, and it moved faster than anything humans had ever tracked. Scientists had only 6 months to prepare, 6 months to save 8 billion people. They could not save everyone, they could not save most, but they could save some. 7 great ships were built in those desperate months. They were not elegant, they were not advanced. They were metal and wire and hope held together by welding torches and prayers. Each ship carried thousands of humans, families, children, doctors, farmers, engineers. Each ship carried seeds and animals and books and memories of a world that would soon die. The ships launched 1 week before impact. They scattered in different directions, racing toward distant stars that might have planets, might have hope, might have a future. 6 ships never made it. Engine failures, radiation storms, collisions with debris. One by one they went silent. Only 1 ship survived, the Silent Dawn. Captain stood on the bridge of that ship now, 3 centuries later. She was 42 years old, born in the ship, raised in its metal corridors, trained from childhood to lead. Her grandmother had been on the original crew. Her mother had served as captain before her, had never seen Earth except in old photographs. She had never felt real wind or real rain, but she carried Earth in her heart as all her people did. The ship was dying around her. "Main power is at 12%, said Chief Engineer. He was a thin man with tired eyes and hands that never stopped moving. He had kept the Silent Dawn running for 30 years through miracles and stubbornness, but even miracles had limits. "I can keep life support going for maybe another 8 years. After that." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Looked around the bridge. Pilot Wu sat at the navigation console, a young man of 25 who had never known anything but this ship. Doctor stood near the door, her medical bag always at her side, her eyes filled with worry. Lieutenant Sung guarded the entrance, his hand resting on the weapon at his belt, always watching for danger even when there was nowhere for danger to come from. 2,000 people lived aboard the Silent Dawn. 2,000 humans who had survived against impossible odds. They had rationed every drop of water, recycled every molecule of air, grown food in tiny gardens under artificial lights. They had raised children and buried elders and kept hope alive through generation after generation. And now, after 300 years, hope was running out. "There is another option," said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "The old beacon," she continued. "The distress signal that the original crew installed. We never activated it because we were afraid of what might answer, afraid of being found by something hostile." "And now?" asked. "Now we have nothing left to lose." The beacon was ancient technology, built on Earth in the final desperate weeks before the launch. It was designed to broadcast across vast distances using frequencies that humans hoped might be universal. No one knew if it would work. No one knew if anyone would hear. But it was their last chance. Gave the order, activated the beacon. Somewhere in the depths of the ship, old machinery hummed to life. A signal shot out into the void, crying for help in a language no alien had ever heard. The signal traveled for 3 weeks before it crossed into conquered space. Detected it immediately. He had been monitoring Sector Null ever since the Council dismissed him, waiting, hopping, knowing in his heart that something was out there. Now he had proof. He traced the signal to its source. His instruments showed him a ship, small, primitive, impossibly old. It was made of metals that advanced civilizations had stopped using ago. Its design was crude, functional, desperate. And it was full of life signs, thousands of them. His crystal heart pulsed with wonder. A new species, an undiscovered civilization, beings who had crossed the stars in a vessel held together by determination and nothing else. He had to tell the Council, but this time he would not let them dismiss him. Deep in the ship called the Silent Dawn, an old man named opened his eyes. He was 142 years old, the oldest human alive, kept breathing by machines and medicine and pure stubborn will. He had been a child of 7 when the ships launched from Earth. He was the last living person who remembered the blue sky, the green grass, the feeling of real sunlight on human skin. He felt the vibration of the beacon through the walls. He knew what it meant. "They are calling," he whispered to the nurse who sat beside him. "After all this time, we are finally calling out to the universe." The nurse took his hand. "Do you think anyone will answer?" Smiled. His eyes were cloudy with age, but somewhere deep inside them a spark remained. "Someone always answers," he said. "The universe is too big to be empty. We just have to be brave enough to speak first." Across the galaxy, in a chamber of crystal and light, prepared to speak. He would tell the Council what he had found. He would make them listen. The galaxy had overlooked humanity for 300 years. That was about to change. The ghost ship had crossed the stars, and now, finally, someone knew it was there. The scout ship was beautiful. It moved through space like a living thing, its crystal hull catching starlight and turning it into rainbows. It was fast. It was elegant. It was everything the Silent Dawn was not. Captain watched it approach on her ship's old screens. The image flickered and jumped. The cameras were older than anyone on board, but she could see enough. The alien vessel was magnificent and terrifying. "They are scanning us," Pilot Wu reported. His voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly on the controls. "I do not know what they are looking for." Everything said, "They want to know what we are." Lieutenant Sung stepped forward. His jaw was tight, his eyes hard. He had spent his whole life protecting this ship and its people. Now strangers were coming, and he had no way to stop them. "Captain, we should run. We do not know their intentions. They could be hostile." "Run where?" asked gently. "Our engines can barely move us forward. Our weapons are museum pieces. If they want to destroy us, they will destroy us whether we run or not." She turned to face her crew. "Our only hope is that they are curious, that they want to talk before they act." The alien ship stopped a short distance away. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a light began to flash, a pattern, repeating, clearly artificial. "They are trying to communicate," Doctor said. She moved to the console and studied the pattern. "It is simple, mathematical. They are showing us they are intelligent." "Show them we are intelligent too," ordered. Wu sent a response, the same mathematical pattern slightly modified. A message that said, "We understand, we are like you, we think." The alien ship flashed again. Then a voice came through the speakers, strange and musical, speaking words that meant nothing. "We cannot understand them," Sung said. "Not yet," replied, "but language is pattern, give me time." It took 3 days. 3 days of signals going back and forth. 3 days of working without sleep, mapping sounds to meanings, building a bridge between two species who had never met. 3 days of the alien ship waiting patiently, neither attacking nor leaving. On the fourth day, smiled. "I have enough," she said. "It will be rough, many words will be missing, but we can talk." Nodded, "Open a channel." The screen flickered. An image appeared, a being made of living crystal, tall and graceful, glowing with soft inner light. Its face had no features that humans would recognize, but somehow it conveyed curiosity, wonder, perhaps even kindness. "I am," the being said through translation system. The words were broken, imperfect, but understandable. "I am, scientist, I heard your call. What are you?" Stepped forward. Her heart pounded, but her voice was calm. I am captain of this ship. We are humans. We come from a planet called Earth, very far from here. Our world was destroyed. We have been traveling for 300 years looking for a new home." Was silent for a long moment. His crystal body pulsed with colors that might have been emotions. 300 cycles in this ship. He seemed to look around, though he had no eyes. "This ship is primitive, old. How did you survive?" "We adapted," said simply. "We rationed, we recycled, we never gave up." Remarkable, breathed. "You must come, you must meet the conquered. They need to know you exist." Sung stepped forward, his hand on his weapon. "How do we know we can trust you? How do we know this conquered will not harm us?" His glow dimmed slightly, perhaps sadness, perhaps confusion. "I cannot promise safety. The conquered is many species, many minds. Some will welcome you, some may fear you. But I can promise this: if you stay here alone, you will die. Your ship cannot last. Come with me and you have a chance. Stay and you have none." It was the truth. Everyone on the bridge knew it. Made her decision: we will come. The journey to conquered space took 2 weeks. The ship towed the silent dawn gently, carefully, like a parent guiding a wounded child. During that time, visited the human ship many times. He walked through their corridors with wonder in his glowing form. He saw their gardens, their schools, their hospitals. He met elder and listened to stories of Earth, the blue oceans, the green forests, the cities of glass and steel. "Your people have suffered much," said one evening, sitting within her small quarters. "Yet you did not become cruel. You did not turn on each other. How?" Thought about the question. "We had no choice," she said finally. "If we fought each other, we all died. So we learned to work together. We learned that every person matters. Every skill, every hand, every mind. We could not afford to waste anyone." "The conquered species fought many wars before they learned that lesson," admitted. "Some still have not learned it. You are different." "We are survivors," said. "That is all." When they finally arrived at the conquered capital station, understood why I had used the word remarkable so often. The station was enormous. It was the size of a small moon, built from materials that gleamed like captured starlight. Ships of 100 different designs came and went, some crystal, some metal, some made of substances could not name. The station was a city, a nation, a world unto itself. And now, for the first time in galactic history, humans would walk its halls. Assembled her team, for communication, Sung for protection, and a young navigator named Bora who had asked to come. Bora was only 20 years old, bright-eyed and curious, representing the generation that would inherit whatever future they built today. They boarded a shuttle and crossed to the station. When the doors opened, they found themselves in a corridor of impossible beauty, walls that sang with light, floors that felt like walking on clouds, air that smelled like nothing they had ever breathed. Aliens watched them pass. Dozens of species, hundreds of forms. Some had tentacles, some had wings, some had no bodies at all, just floating clouds of light and thought. All of them stared at the small group of humans in their worn clothes and simple shoes. "They are looking at us like we are animals in a zoo," Sung muttered. "Let them look," said quietly. "Today they see us as curiosities. Tomorrow they will see us as equals. We just have to survive until tomorrow." They were led to a great chamber where the High Council waited. 12 beings sat in a circle, representing the 12 ruling species of the conquered. They were ancient, powerful, and utterly unimpressed by the small, soft creatures standing before them. Counselor spoke first. "So, these are the beings from Sector Null. They look fragile, they look weak. Tell me, human, why should the conquered care that you exist?" Lifted her chin, her voice was steady. "Because we survived what should have killed us. Because we crossed the stars in a ship made of scraps and prayers. Because we are still here standing before you after 300 years of darkness." She paused. "We do not ask for pity. We do not beg for charity. We ask only for a chance to prove our worth. Give us that chance and we will show you what humans can do." The council was silent. 12 ancient beings looked at one small human woman and saw something they had not expected. They saw fire, they saw steel, they saw a spirit that refused to break. The judgment would come soon. But in that moment, standing in the heart of an alien empire, knew one thing for certain. Humanity would not be overlooked again. The council chamber fell silent after spoke. 12 ancient beings studied her, this small, fragile creature who stood before them without fear. Some felt curiosity, some felt respect, and some, like Counselor, felt something darker. "Pretty words," said, his crystal form pulsing with cold light. "But words are easy. You claim to be survivors, you claim to be worthy. Yet you come to us in a ship that should have fallen apart centuries ago, wearing clothes made of recycled fabric, breathing recycled air. What can such a primitive species possibly offer the conquered?" Did not flinch. She had expected this. She had prepared for this. "We offer what no other species has proven they possess," she said. "The ability to endure the unsurvivable. Your civilizations have never faced true extinction. You have never lost everything and rebuilt from nothing. We have. We did not just survive, we thrived. We raised children in the darkness between stars. We built schools and hospitals and gardens in a metal box floating through the void. We kept hope alive when hope should have died." She stepped forward, her eyes meeting glowing form without hesitation. "You ask what we can offer. I ask you this. When your perfect systems fail, when your advanced technology breaks, when disaster strikes and there is no elegant solution, who will you call? The species who have known only comfort, or the species who learned to survive on nothing?" Murmurs rippled through the council. Several members leaned forward with interest, even seemed momentarily uncertain. An alien made of flowing liquid spoke next. "The human raises a valid point. Resilience has value. Adaptability has value. Perhaps these beings deserve a chance to prove themselves. Or perhaps they will be a burden," another counselor argued, "a creature of shadow and whispers. Resources spent on primitives are resources wasted." The debate continued for hours, and her team stood in silence, watching their fate being decided by beings who had never known hunger, never known fear, never known what it meant to lose everything. Finally, Counselor raised his hand. The chamber fell quiet. "We have decided," he announced. "Humanity will be given a trial period. You will be assigned a world, a planet in the outer regions that no other species wants. It is harsh. It is dangerous. It has broken every colony that tried to settle there." His voice carried something that might have been satisfaction. "If you survive and build a functioning society within 20 cycles, you will be granted provisional membership in the conquered. If you fail—" He did not finish the sentence. Bowed her head. "We accept." "You accept blindly," said. "You do not even know what world awaits you." "It does not matter," replied. "Whatever it is, we will make it home." The council dismissed them. As they walked back to the shuttle, Bora's young face was troubled. "Captain, they gave us the worst planet they have. They want us to fail." "Yes," agreed. "Then why did you accept?" Stopped and looked at the young navigator. "Because failing on a harsh world is better than dying on a broken ship. Because even a small chance is better than no chance. And because," she smiled slightly, They do not know us. They think harsh conditions will break us. They do not understand that harsh conditions are all we have ever known. Back on the Silent Dawn, the news spread quickly. Some were afraid, some were angry, but most were something else entirely: excited. For 300 years they had been trapped in a metal prison, dreaming of open skies and solid ground. Now, finally, they would have a world of their own. Engineer worked day and night to prepare the ship for one final journey. His apprentice, a brilliant young man named Jin, worked beside him. Jin was 23 years old, with quick hands and a quicker mind. He had a talent for machines that bordered on magic. While repairing an old computer core, Jin found something strange. He called, "Come look at this." Walked over, wiping grease from his hands. "What is it?" "Old files, very old, from before the launch." Jin's face was pale. "They are encrypted, but the encryption is ancient. I can break it." "Then break it." It took Jin 3 days to decode the files. When he finished, he wished he had not. The files contained research from Earth's final months, studies of the asteroid that had destroyed their world. Scientists had tracked its trajectory, analyzed its composition, searched for any way to stop it. They had found something impossible. The asteroid's path had been altered, not by natural forces, not by random chance. Its trajectory had been deliberately changed by technology that did not match anything humanity possessed. Someone had aimed the asteroid at Earth. Someone had murdered 8 billion people on purpose. Jin brought the information to Captain. She read the files in silence, her face becoming harder with each word. "Who," she finally asked, "who did this?" "The files do not say. The scientists did not have time to investigate. They were too busy trying to survive." Jin hesitated. "But Captain, the technology signatures in these files. I compared them to the Conquered database that's shared with us. They match designs used by species in the Conquered 300 years ago." His hands trembled, not with fear, with rage. "Someone in this alliance killed our world. Someone here decided humanity should not exist." "What do we do?" Jin asked. Was silent for a long moment. She thought of the 2,000 souls aboard this ship. She thought of the harsh world waiting for them. She thought of the council that had looked at her people with contempt. If she revealed this information now, what would happen? War. Humanity had no army, no fleet, no weapons. They would be destroyed in days. The species that murdered Earth would finish what they started. But if she stayed silent? "We say nothing," decided. Her voice was cold. "Not yet. First we survive. First we grow strong. First we build an army and a fleet and a nation that cannot be ignored." She looked at Jin with eyes that burned like dying stars. "Then we find the ones who killed our world, and we make them answer for what they did." Jin nodded slowly. "I understand. Tell no one except those who need to know. Sung, no one else. This secret stays buried until we are ready." That night stood alone on the observation deck, staring out at the alien stars. Somewhere out there, hidden among the glittering civilizations of the Conquered, were the beings who had tried to erase humanity from existence. They had failed. And one day, when humanity was strong, when humanity was powerful, when humanity could not be overlooked or dismissed or destroyed, one day, they would learn what it meant to face a species that refused to die. Pressed her hand against the cold glass. "We are coming," she whispered to the darkness. "We are patient, we are stubborn, and we never ever forget." Behind her, the silent dawn hummed with life. 2,000 humans prepared for their journey to a harsh and dangerous world. They did not know that their ancestors had been murdered. They did not know that enemies lurked among the stars. The planet was called 7 in Conquered records. The humans called it something else. They called it hope. It was not a kind world. The sun was harsh and red, beating down on endless deserts of orange sand. Storms swept across the surface without warning, walls of dust and lightning that could kill in minutes. Water existed only deep underground, hidden in ancient aquifers. The native creatures were hostile, armored beasts that saw anything soft as food. The conquered expected humans to die here. They had sent 5 colonies to 7 before. All 5 had failed within a decade. Humanity landed on the surface and looked at the harsh, red world. Then they rolled up their sleeves and got to work. The Silent Dawn was too damaged to ever fly again. They landed it carefully and turned it into their first shelter, the heart of what would become their capital city. Engineer and his apprentice Jin worked without rest, converting ship systems into planetary infrastructure. Water recyclers became purification plants. Air processors became climate controllers. The ship that had carried them across the stars became the seed of their new civilization. Commander Han organized the defense. He was a quiet man with hard eyes who had spent 30 years protecting the ship from internal conflicts. Now he had a new enemy. The native creatures, the humans called them dust wolves, attacked in packs, drawn by the scent of unfamiliar prey. Han trained every adult to fight. He built walls from the orange stone. He created weapons from salvaged metal. Within 3 months, the dust wolves learned that humans were not easy prey. They stopped attacking. Some said they had learned fear. Doctor established the medical center. Disease was their invisible enemy, new bacteria, new viruses, new threats that human bodies had never encountered. She lost patience in those early months. Each death was a wound that never fully healed. But she learned. She adapted. She created treatments from local plants and synthesized medicines from desert fungi. By the end of the first year, the death rate had dropped to almost nothing. A young scientist named studied the planet itself. She was fascinated by 7, not frightened. Where others saw a wasteland, she saw potential. The soil could be treated. The water could be purified. The climate could be modified, slowly, carefully, over generations. This world was not always dead, she told Captain one evening, showing her samples under a microscope. Millions of years ago there were oceans here, forests, life. Something killed it, but the bones of that life remain. We can bring it back. How long? Asked. Centuries, maybe longer, smiled. But we are good at waiting, are we not? Smiled back, yes, we are. 5 years passed. The single settlement became 3, then 5, then 10. Humans spread across 7 like water, finding cracks in stone, slowly, persistently, unstoppably. They did things the conquered species had never tried. They tamed the dust wolves instead of killing them, using patience and understanding to turn predators into partners. They bred plants that could survive the harsh conditions, creating gardens that grew food even in the desert. They built underground cities to escape the storms, and surface towers to harvest solar energy. Word spread through the conquered. The ghost species was not dying. The ghost species was thriving. Some aliens were curious. They visited 7 and found not desperate refugees but confident builders. They found schools where children learned mathematics and history. They found hospitals that used techniques the conquered had never seen. They found people who worked hard, laughed often, and never complained about their harsh conditions. How do you do it? A visitor asked Commander Han. This world has broken every species that tried to live here, yet you seem happy. Han thought about the question. We are not happy because our lives are easy. We are happy because our lives have meaning. Every wall we build, every seed we plant, every child we raise, these things matter. We are not just surviving anymore. We are building something that will last. The visitor did not fully understand. Perhaps no species that had never faced extinction could understand. Other aliens were not curious. They were afraid. The same 3 species who had murdered Earth, the council members who had voted to give humanity the worst planet, watched the human expansion with growing unease. These creatures should have died. They should have broken. Instead, they were multiplying, growing stronger, becoming a power. In secret chambers, they discussed what to do, but they could not act openly. The rest of the Conquered was watching now. Humanity had become interesting. An attack without justification would raise questions they did not want to answer. So they waited, and plotted, and hoped that time would do what the desert could not. Visited often. The scientist had become humanity's greatest advocate in the Conquered, speaking of their achievements, defending them against critics. He and had become friends, an unlikely bond between crystal and flesh, between ancient civilization and young species. "You are changing faster than any species in Conquered history," told her during one visit. "In 5 years, you have done what others take centuries to accomplish. Some find this inspiring, others find it threatening." "Let them be threatened," said. "We did not survive 300 years in space to be stopped by jealousy." His glow dimmed with worry. "Be careful, you have enemies you do not know about, powers that wish you had never been found." Thought of the secret files, the evidence of murder hidden in old computers. "I know," she said quietly. "I know exactly what enemies we have." By the 15th year, humanity numbered 50,000. By the 20th year, they reached 100,000. Bobbies were born who had never known the ship, who had never known anything but solid ground and open sky. A generation was rising that knew seven as home. A young girl named stood on a hill overlooking the capital city. She was 12 years old, born on the planet, raised in its schools and playgrounds. Behind her, the converted hulk of the silent dawn gleamed in the red sunlight, a monument to the journey her ancestors had made. Governor, she was no longer captain. She had been elected to lead the colony, walked up beside her. "What are you thinking about?" asked. Pointed at the sky. "I am thinking about Earth. My teacher says it was beautiful, green and blue with real oceans and real forests. She says we came from there a long time ago." "We did. Will we ever go back?" Was silent for a moment. She thought of the ruined planet, the murdered billions, the secret she carried. She thought of the future, not years away but decades, centuries. She thought of justice. "Yes," she said finally. "One day we will go back, and when we do, we will make sure the galaxy remembers why." Did not understand what the governor meant, but she heard something in her voice, something hard and bright, like steel being forged. 20 years had passed since humanity landed on Seven. The desperate refugees who had arrived in a dying ship were gone. In their place stood a nation. 3 million humans now lived across 12 worlds. Seven remained the capital, but colonies had spread to neighboring systems, some harsh, some gentle, all transformed by human hands. The Conquered had granted them provisional membership, then full membership, unable to deny the evidence of their eyes. Humanity had not just survived. Humanity had become a power. Admiral Sung stood on the bridge of the New Dawn, the flagship of humanity's fleet. He had grown old in service. His hair was gray now, his face lined with years, but his eyes were still sharp, still hard. He had spent his life protecting his people. Now he had the tools to do it properly. The fleet was not large by Conquered standards. 50 ships built in human shipyards designed by human engineers, but they were different from any vessels the galaxy had seen. They were versatile, tough, unpredictable. They could operate where other ships failed. They could survive what other ships could not. Just like the people who built them. Ambassador had tried diplomacy first. She had presented the evidence to the Conquered Council. The files Jin had decoded decades ago, the proof that Earth's destruction was deliberate, the technology signatures that pointed to 3 specific species. The Council had refused to investigate. Too much time had passed, they said. The evidence was questionable. An investigation would destabilize the alliance. Had reported their response to Elder, now 82 years old, retired from governance but still the heart of humanity's memory. "They know," said quietly. "Some of them know exactly what happened, and they have decided that justice for humanity is not worth the trouble." "What do we do?" asked. His eyes were calm, patient, certain. "We do what we have always done. We survive, we adapt, and we find the truth ourselves." The fleet departed 2 days later. 50 ships, carrying 10,000 humans, crossing the galaxy toward a dead solar system that had once been home. The three hostile species, the ones who had murdered Earth, saw the fleet moving. They sent warnings, then threats, then demands. The conquered council ordered humanity to turn back. The investigation was not authorized. The mission was illegal. Admiral Sung ignored them all. "They had 300 years to give us answers," he said. "They chose silence. Now we will find answers ourselves." The hostile species assembled a fleet of their own. 500 ships, 10 times humanity's force, moved to intercept. They would stop the humans at the outer rim, far from Earth, far from evidence, far from truth. Captain Wu, commander of the New Dawn, watched the enemy fleet approach. He was 45 years old now. The young pilot who had once sat nervously at controls transformed into a seasoned commander. Beside him stood Officer, now 32, the girl who had once asked about Earth, grown into a warrior. "They outnumber us badly," observed. "They do," Wu agreed, "but numbers are not everything." The battle began at the edge of a nebula, where clouds of gas and dust turned space into a maze. The hostile fleet expected easy victory. They had superior numbers, superior technology, centuries of military tradition. They did not understand what they were fighting. Human ships did not behave like conquered vessels. They did not form neat lines. They did not follow predictable patterns. They scattered, regrouped, attacked from unexpected angles. They used the nebula itself as a weapon, hiding in dust clouds, emerging without warning, vanishing before the enemy could respond. The hostile commanders gave orders. Their ships tried to adapt, but human tactics changed faster than they could follow. Every time they thought they understood the pattern shifted. And human crews refused to surrender. Ships that should have retreated kept fighting. Ships that should have been disabled kept firing. The hostile fleet destroyed vessel after vessel, but each destroyed ship cost them dearly. "Why do they not run?" a hostile commander demanded. "Why do they not give up?" His subordinate had no answer. Neither did anyone else. The battle lasted 3 days. When it ended, the hostile fleet had lost 300 ships. Humanity had lost 30. The survivors retreated in confusion, their confidence shattered. The New Dawn continued toward Earth. They arrived at a dead system. The sun still burned, but the planets around it were silent. Mars, Venus, the gas giants, all unchanged. And there in the third orbit was Earth. Or what remained of it. The planet was. Continents had been reshaped by the impact. Oceans had boiled away. The atmosphere was thin and poisonous. Nothing lived on the surface. Nothing had lived there for 300 years. Captain Wu ordered the fleet to stop. For a long moment, no one spoke. They simply looked at the tomb of their ancestors. Then Wu gave a new order. "Begin the search, find the asteroid debris, find the proof." It took 2 weeks to locate the remains of the asteroid that had killed Earth. It had shattered on impact, spreading fragments across the inner system. Jin, now an old man, the chief scientist of the fleet, led the analysis. What they found was undeniable. The asteroid's core contained technology, guidance systems, propulsion units, control mechanisms. Someone had turned a natural rock into a weapon and aimed it at Earth. The technology signatures matched exactly. 3 species, 3 murderers, 300 years of lies. Elder broadcast the evidence across every channel in the Concord. Her voice was calm, steady, without rage. She did not need rage. The truth was enough. 300 years ago, our world was destroyed. We were told it was natural. We were told it was fate. We were told we should be grateful for charity. Now you see the truth. We were murdered. 8 billion innocent people were killed because someone decided humanity should not exist. She paused, the galaxy listened. We do not seek revenge. We do not seek war. We seek justice. The species responsible must answer for their crime. The conquered must acknowledge what was done. And humanity must be recognized, not as refugees, not as curiosities, not as primitives, but as survivors of attempted genocide who built ourselves back from nothing. The reaction was immediate. The three guilty species everything, but their allies abandoned them. The evidence was too clear. The conquered council finally, reluctantly, opened a formal investigation. Within a year, the guilty leaders were arrested. Within 2 years, they faced judgment. Within 5 years, the three species had been stripped of their council seats and forced to pay reparations that would last for centuries. And humanity, the ghost species, the overlooked ones, the beings who were supposed to die in darkness between the stars, stood at the center of galactic politics, respected and feared in equal measure. Officer stood on the bridge of the new dawn as it orbited Earth one final time. Below her the planet waited, silent, patient, dead but not forgotten. They thought we were ghosts, she said softly. They thought we would fade away. She turned to face the crew, humans who had been born in space, on hostile worlds, in the shadows of alien civilizations. Humans who had learned to survive anything. They forgot that ghosts do not die. Ghosts haunt. And we will haunt this galaxy until every star knows our name, until every species remembers what we endured, until the universe itself cannot look at the sky without thinking of humanity. Behind her, through the viewport, Earth hung in the darkness. One day, perhaps in a century, perhaps in 2, humans would return. They would heal the wounds. They would rebuild the cities. They would bring life back to the planet that had birthed their species. But that was a story for another time. For now, it was enough to stand among the stars and know they had survived. The galaxy had overlooked humanity once. It would never make that mistake again. Somewhere in the universe, the enemies of humanity slept peacefully, believing themselves safe. They were wrong. The ghost species was growing, and ghosts, as everyone knows, eventually come back to haunt those who wronged them. But they would learn, and when they did, the galaxy would tremble.